Chris Jericho says wrestling fans aren't as smart as they think they are.
I think a lot of people don't want that. They want to know everything all up front. This story sucks, or this is terrible, or, you know, or what's the follow-up going to be?
Jericho said, quote, just sit back. We do have long-term story ideas and thoughts and plans. As knowledgeable as fans think they are sometimes, they still really don't know.
They think they've guessed the whole story, you know, in the middle and are mad that it's not ending yet. It's like, just calm down and watch the rest of the show.
Jimmy, I'm a big believer in this in many different ways. And we talk about, you know, working in wrestling and on the other side of things. And for people who have never been on the other side of the guardrail, I just got to say, once you've been on the other side, even just a little, you realize how dumb you are as a fan before you got to the other side. Jimmy, what are your thoughts on this?
No, Chris Jericho is absolutely right. He's a guy who's been there, done it all. He's one of the GOATs. He's one of the greatest of all time, not only in the ring, but, you know, in his mind. He knows the business inside and out. And for a lot of fans out there, unfortunately, we're living in an age where everybody wants to be in the know. They want to get online and read what's going on and who's going where and what's going on and the behind the scenes stuff. We never got that back in the day. When I was a fan, I didn't know what was going on. I just watched wrestling on television and enjoyed it and got enthralled in the stories they were telling. I kind of had an idea what I thought was going on regarding whether it was predetermined outcomes or that sort of thing, but I didn't care. Just entertained me. But unfortunately, a lot of fans today, they want to think they're in the know. And even with the past stuff, they're thinking, I know what happened back then because it was on whatever, they read on whatever sheet. Even today, I hate to bring this up. Even today, some guy came at me on the old Twitter machine, talking to me about the infamous JBL Ron Simmons and Public Enemy thing. Yeah, and just going on. Yeah, Vince used to send those guys out there to beat people up, and I'm going, that's not what happened, dude. There was an incident. Go back and find out what the real story was. I didn't tell it. I just said, just go back and find out. It says, yeah, well, I read so-and-so's book and so-and-so's book, and that's what they said. I said, dude, I was right there. I was like, right there. I know what happened. Oh, no, this is what happened. Okay, man. Like, gee, just relax. You don't have to know everything. Sometimes it's like a magician. If I go to a magic show and I see how the magic is done, I don't want to go to another magic show again because I know, oh, this is how it was done.
Right. Yeah, I always compare wrestling to magic shows because I feel like they're, in a weird way, they're very connected in that regard. The mystery of what's happening versus isn't happening, and the desire to want to know, but the reality of you don't really want to know. So, George, just any thoughts on Jericho's comments about wrestling fans don't know as much as they think they know?
So I got two things when it comes to that. The first one is, obviously we're all on Twitter. As much as we hate it, we kind of enjoy it a little bit. But we see all these people kind of trying to get one up on some of these like veterans, right? Like Bully Ray's obviously a notable guy, and he's one of the guys that, because he's on practically every single day, and I don't know whenever Bully Ray's telling lies, because I feel like he's very eloquent in the way he says things. But then you have a lot of people saying like, "Oh, you don't know what you're talking about." And again, I'm not implying that every veteran in the business is always going to be 100% right, but they're right a lot. You know what I mean? They're right a lot of the times. So for a lot of people to kind of come in and say like, "Oh, you don't know what you're talking about. You don't know what it's like." Like, dude, like you have no idea what you're talking about when you're criticizing a lot of things, what people say. The second thing I want to say is, and it's funny, like when it comes to like working people, I can say I'm not, but I can say the most controversial thing right now, whether it's here, whether it's on Twitter, whatever it is, and nobody will give a crap. And maybe, obviously I don't have the industry, I don't have the experience myself, but then you have like a Cornette or whoever else, right? A lot of polarizing figures on Twitter, and they'll say anything and people will just hate on it. And I'm like, dude, you guys are all getting worked right now. Like you have no idea how much you are keeping some of these people that you want to not be relevant. You have no idea how relevant you're making them by continuously putting them over, whether it's good or bad. Like, dude, you guys are all getting worked. And that just goes to show just how much people don't know anything about pro wrestling.
Yeah, I love that you say that, because I always say people argue like, do star rankings matter? And I always say they do, because you guys can't shut up about them. So clearly they do. I mean, I don't really look at them. I don't really talk about them. But if you talk about every single star ranking that comes out, you can't tell me that you don't care.
No, that's a good point, Jack. But here's the thing: you know who doesn't care about the star rankings? The ones that are getting the rankings. The boys themselves, they're listening to the audience. If the audience is responding, that's what they care about most. If people are putting asses in seats, that's what they care about the most. And to George's point there, you're right. You're absolutely right. Do you think they care that they're going out there and pushing your buttons and getting you to get riled up and go, Jim Cornette is a you-know-what, and all these, they're behind that keyboard entertaining themselves. Sometimes I'm guilty of doing the same. I try to cool down on it sometimes, but every once in a while I go, okay, here's one where I think I could have a little fun with.
It's funny because like there was one. I mean, it happens all the time, but a lot of things, especially with Twitter, it gets retweeted, or if it gets a quote tweeted, I think that's what it's called, and it's followed by like a criticism or something bad, and I'm like, I'm only watching it because you guys are putting it over with your quote tweet or your retweet, whatever it is, right? Like even like that I don't know. I mean, I don't really get too involved, but I guess Cornette had some kind of thumbnail that kind of was a little, I guess you can say, controversial. Like I would have never known about it. I mean, I don't listen to his podcast, but I would never know about it until everyone else is kind of mentioning it. So I know this because of everyone else's negativity toward Cornette. So what does that say? What does that say about whatever you guys are trying to accomplish?
Right. And really quickly before, sorry, Jack, I didn't mean to step in there. But the other thing too about quote tweeting is somebody gave me, why do you quote tweet everything? I said, because if I respond to something and they don't know what I'm responding to, then they could take it completely out of context. That whoever's reading this and going, okay, that whatever Korderas is saying doesn't make any sense. But this is what I'm replying to. I want people to know what I'm replying to as opposed to just randomly putting it out there and for people to go, oh, what the hell is that all about?
So I think the main story is for me here is don't get so caught up about what people are saying on the internet. Just watch the show like a regular TV show is what I always say. Don't get caught up in all that nonsense and stuff out there unless you enjoy that stuff. But if you enjoy that stuff, then don't get all crabby about it.
And if you don't want to get crabby, don't try to go at Bully, because Bully's a master at replying to these guys. My
big thing that I always say is the fantasy booking can be fun sometimes.
Yeah.
But like when you start to do they have to do this, or this is the way it must be, then you suddenly start to you're putting expectations on things that no one promised to you. And then you're mad at something because it didn't happen that way, but no one ever said it was going to happen that way. And you set yourself up for failure or to go, it was predictable. So just let the show be the show.
Yeah. And you're absolutely right. That's one of the big things is they come up with this idea, the fans will, and say, because it doesn't happen the way they thought it should happen, then it sucked.
Right.
You know what I mean? But one of the things I do like about when some of the veterans come on, there's certain podcasts and shows, they say what I would do or the way I would like to see it play out. That's different than saying it should.
Yeah.